Hey everyone, thank you for clicking on the video. If you enjoy, please make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, and share with everyone. And if you have time after, please make sure you go to nateknighttalks.com and check out the NNT Community and Research Database. Thank you.
I just wanted to ask, the yes or no on your personal opinion about very advanced tech, by humans. Do you think that there's very advanced tech out there that's human controlled, operated, understood, etc.?
Yeah, I have no doubt about that. I have no doubt. We're not alone. I have remote viewed as part of the historical record, remote viewed other planets, other places, other societies, other civilizations, good and bad and indifferent. And I have also been to the classified museum out at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base with a colonel friend of mine. And there we saw things that were, they just boggled the imagination. I mean, there is in one place, which is an unclassified museum, there's actually a saucer looking thing, but when you look under it, it's got a big giant fan in it. So the person's actually flying a fan. Well, that's not what I saw, or with my friend. We saw an actual saucer that had no visible cockpit. You couldn't see it. It looked like a discus, but it was made out of aircraft aluminum, and it was riveted, and it had no visible means of propulsion. And as I said, there was no cockpit with a window to look out of. It just looked like it was all stainless or aluminum that formed this thing, but it had a U.S. Air Force marking on it, and it wasn't a prop, because it wouldn't have been there if it was a prop. It was an actual craft. But I asked my friend, Doug, Colonel Hodge, I said, how do you think they flew it? I mean, did they throw it with a slingshot or something like that? Was it like a clay pigeon thrower of this size or something? You threw it out there, and somebody yelled pull, and then he threw it out, and then, to give it a bump start or something. He goes, I don't know. So we both, walked around kicking it and pounding on it and seeing it was hollow, and it wasn't hollow. So I don't know, why they would have retired it and put it there. But this same colonel worked out at Area 51, and he worked there for like 10 years, and he goes, look, if I saw something out there, if I, happened upon alien bodies or something, he goes, I'd tell you that. But I know Ron Blackburn, who was a scientist, one of my remote viewing students, who was a scientist at Lawrence Livermore. I don't know if he's still alive, but he told me that he had seen an alien body, that he had seen it, that he had touched it, that he has seen other, alien technology and those things. So I know it's there. I don't know why it's being hidden. I do know that as remote viewers, we looked off planet at these things. It's preposterous to assume we are alone, because we're not. And I can offer my, only my anecdotal proof of that, because I can't really prove that to you, but I can give you that proof anecdotally that it's there, that I've seen it. And I think it's kind of hopeless for people to spend a lot of energy thinking, or believing people telling you that, they went and briefed some admiral, or they did this or did that, or, they've coerced the president into, telling us the truth about this, which seems to be a repeat message you hear from select people in that community, because you just need to listen to me on this. Those kinds of agencies and that level of compartmentalization, they don't tell the president. They couldn't care less if Obama or, Trump or Biden, they consider those people to be transients in the process. Transients. They're not going to reveal that. They are the keepers of those gates, and they are, typically the keepers of those gates are civilians. Even the military personnel are transient. So they don't reveal that information, and they won't reveal it. And so, just because the president says, I want a briefing on UFOs, go and pull up some simple, stupid thing that goes, well, here it is. Here's what we think. And here's what we've investigated. And yeah, we have no evidence of anything. Well, I want to know if we have alien, technology. They'll just stare. They have no legal obligation to tell the president of the United States, despite the fact that the president may think they do. There is no legal precedent that says that the keepers of these top secret, whatever level of classification that they are, for whatever reason, there's nothing that can make them tell them. Nothing. And they won't.
I'm glad you said that,
from one
dude.
president to the next, to the next, to the next. And then you get all these, doctors and other people standing around talking about, how they're influencing it and going to change it. And I'm telling you, listen to me, they're not. And they won't tell you until there comes a time where something happens that raises it to a level where there becomes a reason for them to talk about it. But just to answer the curiosity of the public is not a reason in their mind. And so they will never do it, no matter who demands it or slams their fist down or, does whatever they do. They just won't. And I don't know why they're not doing it. I've never looked at that or, investigated it. I have no idea, but I know that they won't do it until there's a reason for them to do it. And that will not come from outside influences, meaning, UFO investigators. That's what I mean.
So just the final word, you have seen, the evidence of, in your remote viewing, or at least through your remote viewing contacts and students, et cetera, evidence of extraterrestrial life and and things like that, but not necessarily this story of a huge human breakaway civilization with this fantastic, tech and things like that, because some people do say that also, but it seems as though you're saying you have not experienced specifically that.
No, I have seen massive civilizations with
But I mean human
massive tech. Pardon me?
A breakaway human civilization that's acquired
no.
this technology a long time ago and has left ultimately this planet.
No, I've never seen that.
Well,
also can't say that there aren't other beings out there that look like us, but I wouldn't normally, because I've seen that too, but I wouldn't naturally assume that they were breakaways from here.
There's a
Thanks so much.
There's a document that I posted in the community on
Excuse me, I am interrupting you because Mr. Nate, I am.
Godra, please wait 1 second. Let David finish.
Yeah, sorry for interrupting. I just wanted to add on to what Dr. Morehouse was saying that so that NASA had done a lot of research, and this document is posted in the community as far as field resonance, propulsion, and they have actually diagrams and drawings of winged discs and different side views and top views of the winged disc, and the magnetic fields that are produced from the propulsion systems that they were researching. It's a really interesting and insightful research document that's there. It's very detailed and goes through the technical side of things, even some mathematical equations. Talks even in physics. It speaks about and then it also does have this kind of a layman overview, of course, for this research document. So just kind of wanted to put that out there. And this was actually published in 1979. It had no classification at the time, and which is interesting. But it's really great document. So
it probably did have a classification. It's probably just been removed over the years.
Oh no! Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, generally they do. Yeah, absolutely.
If it's that old, it was probably just white-outed out, and you're looking at a Xerox copy. And so.
Yeah, I think it actually. So now I was actually mistaken. It had a declassification date on it. Actually, now. So yeah. Thanks for correcting me, Doctor.
Oh, David, have you heard Dr. Greer speak about UFOs on Clubhouse? on YouTube?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm glad, David, that you brought up the whole thing with the president, because talk about it in this room a lot. That people seem to think that the president's going to be privy to any of this kind of information, which is absolutely hilarious. The presidents are merely renting the White House for 4 years or 8 years if they're lucky, and they're doing the proper biddings of the corporations that sponsor them, as well as the intelligence agencies. If they're not stepping on any feet at the time, they might make it to 8 years. But that they ultimately don't know anything, and how secrecy is ultimately kept within the intelligence agencies, and the stovepipe compartmentalization that takes place, where one hand doesn't ultimately know what the other hand is doing or knows, and that it's very, 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 very few people who hold any kind of information or even any type of a macro view of what's actually taking place. And those people are career within, they're the directors of those particular.
Yeah, they're there till they die, and they choose their own successor. Let me give you an example. When I went into Torn Image, which was the strategic deception unit, it was made very clear to me that I was not to brief anybody else in that building on what my project was or what I was doing. And there was a colonel who was in command of the unit, and when I was required to give him update briefings, my question to him was, well, what do you want me to brief on? Do you want me to brief on all the details? He was, oh, no. You just, brief me enough that, if I get asked a question about where do we stand on a counter-narcotics deception, that you can, just give me some generalities. So it was clear to me that he didn't want to know the specifics. And that meant he didn't know the specifics of any other of the projects that were ongoing in that particular organization. He only wanted to know what he needed to answer some simple questions. And he wanted to have some level of plausible deniability, which is that same process happens in the agency, it happens in the FBI, it happens, DIA, it happens in CIA, and certain elements of it where information is tailored to meet the expectations of the person asking for it and nothing more. And if the expectations of the person asking for it exceed the parameters or the security parameters of the people who are the gatekeepers, they don't give it. or they'll falsify it, or they'll minimize it, or they'll actually give you like one or two things out of 1,000. To present there. And that's how they manage it, because there's this whole thing in the intel community that goes, if you say those things, if you brief that stuff, it's never contained. It goes out there. It gets leaked. It gets talked about at the breakfast table or, at the bar or some other thing. So if you say it, there is no control over it anymore. And just as Nate was saying, or whoever was saying that they're not going to brief the president. And they're not going to brief any of the president's aides. And they're not going to brief anybody that accompanies it. They don't give a damn. They don't care, what they think or do or anything else. They won't do it. I mean, here I was just in a simple strategic deception unit, and you were not allowed to share what you were doing with any of the other deceivers in that particular organization. It was quite bizarre. Really quite bizarre.
But that's how they do it. And it's good for people to know that. Thank you, Shiva. Go the route, you're up.